Guys, we're here. Paul and I are doing this thing again. We've totally ditched Ian and Eric, and we've decided to do a roundtable just for you. This is a smaller one, admittedly. We're going to maybe break this up into a couple, but what we wanted to do was we wanted to give you the opportunity to get a little glimpse of some of the insight that you can get in Paul's Thinking Texas Football prospectus. I'm going to put this thing up again because I'm such a big fan of it. But what we want to talk about now is, there you have your very own copy. I think that's
and the back.
good. You can see the back of the book. Great. What we were talking about earlier is how can we look at a non-conference opponent, maybe even a lesser opponent, and still glean information as to how Texas is doing? Because I think what a lot of fans do sometimes is they take those early non-conference games for granted, and they just assume it's going to be, they're upset if it's not a blowout. That's the metric they're using as to whether Texas is good or not. But in fact, there's actually some things that the educated eye could look at to give us an indication as to whether Texas is maybe correcting some issues they may have had in the past, or are they being exploited in some ways or another? So what we wanted to do is through the lens of the prospectus, let's look at some of these non-conference games. And we're going to start with Colorado State.
Colorado State runs a modified air raid system. Head coach Jay Norvell, who we're familiar with from his time at Texas, is doing a good job there. They went from 3-9 to 5-7 last year. They're looking to go to a bowl this year and be a competitive in the Mountain West. And they've got a good quarterback in Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, and they've got an elite NFL level wide receiver in Torrey Horton, two-time 1,000-yard receiver so far. He's going for his third 1,000-yard season at Colorado State as a receiver. And one of the things that Colorado State loves to do, partly because they have to, they don't have a good enough offensive line, but they like to take three-step drops, get the ball out quickly to a spot, preferably in the middle of the field, between the hashes. And they're so good at it that when they targeted Torrey Horton in that range from 0 to 19 yards inside the hash, they were 36 of 41 for 446 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Very high level of efficiency, 90% completion rate.
Oh my
It
God.
just so happens, LC, that Texas was not so great at times defending that part of the field against certain routes that if you're a Thinking Texas Football reader, you already know Colorado State excels at. And we're going to give you a little bit of video evidence to support that contention.
So let's look at this really quickly. I'm going to stop this and get us a chance because this stuff moves really, really fast.
Yes. So you're going to see their spread formation, classic spread formation, shotgun. He's not even taking a drop here. Obviously, he's looking to get the ball out of his hot hands as quickly as possible. This is the game against Colorado. And I just want to show you a run-of-the-mill play, not a super highlight, because I want to show you something that's a fundamental part of the Ram offense. So go ahead and run it, and I'll give you an idea. If you look up in the right, there comes Horton dragging. That is about as simple as routes get. You'll notice he's right between the hashes, and he's catching the ball. It's an easy target. It's a throw that you and I can make. We think.
Right, it's a bit, but I mean, yeah, I think your point there. And again, so I think the key here too is we're starting with something that's 8 yards. It's a really simple little drag route, and because this is the key, because this is such a great athlete, I think it's worth noting what he turns this into.
Right.
Simple little drag route, and we've got just an explosion out of this. Right, makes the guy miss, and then there you go.
There you go. Easy 9 yards. Right now, did Texas have some struggles with this route?
Well, unfortunately, that's true. So let's look at that. So here we go. We've got
Houston game. You guys will remember we had a little bit of trouble with Donovan Smith and Sam Brown, and of course, current Longhorn Matthew Golden. And you're going to see a very similar little drag route from Sam Brown on a delay. Now they're going to combine some rubs. You'll see the trips formation down at the bottom. They're going to rub a little bit. What I mean by a rub is they're just scraping off defenders because we're playing man. And I want you to see what an easy throw this is for such a big gain with one missed tackle. He's dropping back. Oh, there's my guy. Oh, he seems to be open.
There's a lot of real estate.
Where's he standing in proximity of the hashes?
Yep.
Right dead in the middle. It's 3rd and 7, by the way. You want to defend that part of the field on 3rd and 7. And here he goes. Oh! Oh no! And
Quality tackling.
Yep. Now, you could credit bad tackling for that, certainly, or discredit it. But also, he's a receiver on the move who caught a wide open ball with space, and he's a better athlete than the guys tackling him, right? And that's what you want to set up for your offense. Even if they had made the tackle, still a first down.
Yep. Again, I think that just the key there is just how much real estate he's got available to him. I mean, it's
where the ball is delivered between the hashes. It's the easiest throw in football. This is real basic football. So let's see another example of this where it hurt Texas a little bit.
Maybe let's take this one. Let's see if we can go in conference, because those are always fun when you get to see something in conference.
Our old conference.
Correct. Thank you for that.
Houston was in our conference, though, too.
This is a quarterback that we might see again, so this is also a little bit notable.
We hope to see this guy again in the playoffs. Will Howard for Kansas State. Again, look up in the upper right. You're not going to get that scrape or sort of rub route effect. You're just going to get a guy running a simple drag. Again, look where the ball is delivered and look where he catches it. Here he comes, and there it is. That is not a hard throw, and that's a touchdown. He jogged in.
So when we're looking at this, I think the thing that's really fascinating too is, again, the amount of real estate that is available here. Is this when we're watching the game, right? So we're watching before the game starts, before the snap. We're lining up in a man is generally how this is presenting itself, because obviously we're clearing out that area. So a zone, presumably you would have a backer, you would have somebody taking up that middle field in a zone. So when we're lining up in man, somebody's going motion. You're probably going to see the man come out of that. We're going to note that's going to be the note to the quarterback. We're in man. I think the thing is the fan needs to watch there is what kind of space is created there. Even if it's not necessarily a successful throw to that area, is that area open? Because that's been a problem for us moving forward.
Absolutely right. And that's an area that really hurt the Texas pass defense last year. It's an easy fix, and it's an easy diagnostic for you, the fan. So is Texas going to beat Colorado State? Yes. I assure you they are going to defeat the Colorado State Rams. And the score is not even as important as looking at things like that. Because if Torrey Horton goes across the middle, even in a 55-10 Texas victory, and he catches 10 balls for 118 yards, 9 yards from the quarterback in the middle of the field, we've got a problem. And I promise you that other offenses with much better firepower and more options are noting that. So that's a quick and easy diagnostic for you to understand a single matchup of a really good player exploiting something that was a weakness for Texas last year. So the hallmark of Michigan, the defending national champions, 15-0 Michigan. And of course, we've got a little date with them in Ann Arbor. Now, this is a game between peers. We're not necessarily looking at what kernels can we draw from a potential blowout. Hey, we'd love to blow out Michigan and Ann Arbor. I don't know if that's in the 4, but they have an elite defense. They lost a lot. They got a lot coming back. Their offense is going to have some troubles, and we can touch on that briefly. But I want to talk about something that plagued Quinn Ewers a little bit last year, even though he leveled up immensely. It's that he wasn't great against the blitz.
Right.
He was best when he was not blitzed. Blitz doesn't necessarily mean he was pressured. It just means they blitzed. Doesn't even mean they got there. They sped him up a little bit, and he didn't always perform at the same level as he did in, say, play action or when he wasn't blitzed at all, which he was in those circumstances, he was the best quarterback in college football. So Michigan has lost Jim Harbaugh. They have lost 6 assistants. They lost the best defensive, in my opinion, the best defensive coordinator in college football in Jesse Minter. They lost their strength coach, Ben Herbert, who many people consider the best S&C coach in college football. So they've lost a lot. That defense, though, still returns some elite personnel. And particularly, they have the best defensive tackle combo in the country in Mason Graham and, of course, Kenneth Grant. They've got really good edges. They're linebackers. They lost, but they got a transfer from Maryland who's a physical freak who's best at blitzing. So
Convenient.
they are going to blitz, and they replace Jesse Minter with Wink Martindale, who is all about blitzing. In
Man, does that guy love the blitz. It's his favorite thing.
It's his favorite thing, and he actually kind of blitzed his way out of the NFL. He kind of overblitzed.
I think, there might have been some conversations, some words exchanged, but yeah, he blitzed his way out of the NFL.
But he is going to bring it, and that's going to be interesting and useful for Texas because although Michigan will have a cornerback who's arguably the best cornerback in college football, they also lost two really key guys to the NFL draft in their secondary, and then they lost two guys to the transfer portal who were supposed to be starters, Keon Saab to Alabama, and then a guy named DJ Waller to Kentucky. And then finally, they lost one of their presumed starters to a ACL. He's not going to play. So they're loaded up front, as good a front as Texas will see all year, including Georgia. But in the secondary, they're vulnerable. So if you're blitzing a lot and the secondary's got some vulnerabilities, what do we need Texas to do?
I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. What were you saying?
It's okay. Handle the blitz is what we're looking for, LC.
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Right. I want to give you an example, or LC is going to give us an example of a Michigan blitz that they did use last year that is classic Ravens, Wink Martindale, Jesse Minter blitzing. So this is a classic overload blitz. And what I mean by that is you'll notice one Michigan guy in the line of scrimmage up on the top, all by his lonesome, and then a big old space, and then you see three guys overloaded, and then you've got a Mike Backer behind him. If you were to guess, is this Mike Backer coming, and do you think he's coming to where there's blockers, or do you think he's coming to where there's already three guys stacked up?
I mean, I don't think I would really want to go where there's blockers. I mean,
run the clip. And he's twisting and looping where they're already overloaded, and they got an easy sack.
Oh man, that's good because that's what I would have done.
That's exactly what you would have done, both as a coach and as a player, LC.
And as a middle linebacker, which is, my mom tells me that's the way I'm built. Okay, great.
Okay, so now, was that blitz particularly complex? Not really.
No.
It's telegraphed before the snap, but it's also one of those plays where Michigan's so good and they're playing man behind it that Indiana can't really do anything about it. They've got five wide. They don't have enough blockers. Does Steve Sarkisian put himself in this situation with five wide? No. He's not going to do that in Ann Arbor. He's going to try to create some protection. He's going to try to pick up that blitz, and then he's going to have some guys running down the field on go routes, trying to attack and exploit some of those fresh meat, fresh fish in the Michigan secondary. Texas probably doesn't have to score much to win this game, but if they can get a couple of explosive plays in the passing game, that might be all they need to leave Ann Arbor with a big W.
I know this isn't the time to really go into what should Texas do, and that's not the question here. But in terms of just a general philosophy in the way that Sark is using bunches, that's got to lead to a little bit of an advantage in this instance, because obviously going three wide on the trips out there it's just spreading everything out, and his bunches create so much confusion, and it also keeps everything so tight that might help mitigate some of this stuff. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. And in fact, on those bunches, sometimes you have a tight end standing up, right? And he's not actually going out on a route. He's going to stay in and pick up a blitzer.
Right.
You also have the premise of spreading the field is my athletes are superior to yours. I'm going to spread the field and attack mismatches. Well, Indiana's athletes are not superior to Michigan's at any position. I can assure you. So it doesn't work very well. Now, I'm not going to say that if I was the Indiana OC, I would have dropped 30 on that defense. But I'm telling you that when you play into that, you're actually opening up these really elementary blitzes from Jesse Minter then, and now it's going to be Wink Martindale. And the difference between Minter and Martindale is Minter's bias was, if I'm getting pressure with 4, I'll rush 4. Martindale's bias is, I'm getting pressure with 4. I bet I could get a lot of pressure with 5. So let's bring 5. Yeah. And that's going to be interesting. Sark is a guy, if you give him a lot of prep time, ask Alabama about this. He's going to figure out some of that stuff, and he's going to try to find some ways to hurt that. Quinn needs to stand strong and deliver the ball. Our receivers need to run good hot routes, and our offensive line obviously has to hold up.
Moving on to UTSA, one of the things we talked about was the idea of the D-line. What kind of confusion can they create, even with a very experienced offensive line coming in here? Because it's something UTSA does really well. Obviously, they've lost Trey Moore. He's on the good guys now. But I think that's something that you had mentioned that I think is worth looking at, how they might be able to maximize some of their potential.
Yeah, I feel really bad for UTSA, as I do with Colorado State, because both G5 teams got poached by the big boys in the offseason. Right. They lost some really good players. UTSA lost their best cover corner in Cam Alexander, who will be starting for Oregon, a top 5 team. And they lost their best edge rusher, Trey Moore, who was the conference player of the year and will be starting for the University of Texas when they roll into Austin. So with those two guys still on UTSA, they would have had an all-time defense.
Sure.
For Jeff Traylor. However, they are not bereft. The cupboard is not bare. They've got a couple of guys named Brandon Brown and Joe Evans, who are basically SEC good interior defensive tackles. Now, they're not maybe the elite of the SEC good, but they're mid-tier SEC good. They're big guys. They're not just fat bodies eating up space, and they're actually a problem if you don't have the ability to handle them inside. They are a very good diagnostic for the University of Texas for an issue that we had last year. The offensive line generally played pretty darn well, but they did have issues with displacement. In other words, can you move that defensive lineman off the ball, not just screen him, not just get in his way? And particularly on the interior. These two guys, if Texas can displace them, I promise you we can displace Oklahoma's defensive tackles. We can displace Florida's defensive tackles. I'm not sure about Georgia's, but it's still a good diagnostic and a good bellwether of what the Texas offensive line can do in terms of physicality. If you guys will recall, we struggled a little bit at times in the red zone, and a lot of that has to do with displacement. I think we have a clip that you've.
Yeah, this is Oklahoma, unfortunately.
This is Oklahoma. Guys are familiar with this. 4 downs to run it, starting inside the 3-yard line, and Texas went 0 for. They weren't able to get that displacement, and they weren't able to account for literally every body that came through. But if you're getting push, sometimes you don't have to account for every body. You can just ride that momentum of the pile. And it doesn't matter that a guy is getting in the backfield. You kind of just keep your legs churning. But when it's a wall in front of you and a guy's getting into the backfield, you're not going to advance your position in football. And you see that right there. We get stonewalled here. That was a big part of OU's win. I want to give you an example of UTSA, something similar. Okay, so I bragged a little bit on Brown and Evans, the two big interior UTSA defensive tackles, after showing that sad Oklahoma goal line stand. Let me give you an example of what they can do. This is classic UTSA defense. They're going to ask these two interior guys to really just control that entire interior. They've got the 2 linebackers offset. On almost every down, at least one of those linebackers is going to come running downhill on a run blitz. And so we'll see the effect of having 2 guys who can't be moved with a run blitzing linebacker on a pretty basic run play here from Texas State. Interior D-line controls, run blitz downhill, everything clogged up, 0 yards.
Yeah, it just so much control in the middle there. It just gives that outside backer just free reign to do whatever they want.
It's so the point is that those backers are sprinting downhill to a spot, to a gap. Right. They're not even reading. And that allows them to play really violently and really aggressively because they have such confidence that those 2 interior guys are not going to get pushed off the ball and aren't going to lose their gap maintenance either inside. There's not going to be any cutback away from them or anything like that. So you could stop there. But the point is, these are 2 SEC mid-tier level defensive tackles.
Right.
So is Texas probably going to beat UTSA in Austin? Yeah. But you need to watch that matchup in the middle of the line of scrimmage and see, can Texas run on the interior of UTSA? I'll give you an example of a team that was able to and take advantage of UTSA's run fits and their strategies with the run blitzing and the overconfident linebackers. Tennessee last year in Knoxville beat them 45-14, and they did it running the ball. And they did it by really just double teaming play side on those big DTs and then sort of almost ignoring the linebackers. Basically thinking if we can get some movement and we can get our guys in there, some of those run blitzing linebackers are going to run themselves out of the play. And that's exactly what happened. Tennessee dropped a couple of really big runs from Dylan Sampson on UTSA, and that really was decisive in the game. So the other part that I think you need to look for this as a diagnostic for the season, since that's the larger theme here, is this game comes in Austin after the intensity of the Michigan road game. 1 week later. And I guarantee you Jeff Traylor is going to treat this game like a Super Bowl.
Sure.
He wants to beat the University of Texas. And it would be a huge feather in his cap. And he's a guy that will pull out all stops to do it. So they're going to play aggressively. They're going to be fired up. And they're going to run a lot of trick plays. They're going to do things to test us and challenge us. Texas needs to be ready to play. Texas is the better team, but UTSA does not lack for physicality. What they lack is just pure ability, quickness, speed compared to Texas. They're not a soft football team. They're not a G5 you're not just going to push around. So if Texas can push them around and then also take advantage of their speed advantages, quickness advantages, skill advantages, then Texas will play just fine. But a lot of that is going to be predicated upon UT's attitude and their willingness to sort of bring it every week, which is going to be a key if they want to make the playoffs.
Hi, guys. Are you thinking about buying or selling a home in the central Texas area? I know our friend Ian Boyd has, and he worked with Laura Baker, and we want you to work with her too. She is a UT grad, an IT member, so she's part of the family, obviously a massive Longhorn fan, or she wouldn't be supporting us. Let her support you. She's a phenomenal realtor, and we really hope that you will work with her. She is with the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams. Give her a call. Her number is 512-784-0505. Again, 512-784-0505. Please give her a call. She supports us. You should support her. We really hope you give her a chat or a shout or a call. That would be great. Do one of those things. Let's round out the non-conference. We've got ULM, University of Louisiana, Monroe.
So the challenge for Texas in this game is in the mirror. As many of our greatest challenges in life are, it's the guy in the mirror. It's not so much your opponent. And the reason ULM is not a huge challenge is I can rattle this off. I cover this more in depth in the football preview. But since joining the FBS in 1994, they've had one winning season. They went 8-5 in 2012. And in their media guide, when I was doing my research, I was alarmed and amused to find out that season is called the Magical Season. And they had a whole write-up on their 8-5 season about how amazing it was. And they finished second in the conference.
Oh, there you go.
And they lost their bowl game by 31 points to Ohio University. The Bobcats, not the Buckeyes.
Do you remember what bowl they went to? I mean, I'm just thinking about like what their gift basket must have been, because that's
Maybe
a highlight right
Bowl?
there.
I don't know. I'm not sure. The Poinsettia Bowl, I don't know. I remember the bowls back in 2012. But
that's not, I mean, that's not nothing.
That's the team last year went 2-10.
Okay.
They started the year 2-0. So that's good.
Great.
They lost 10 in a row. That's bad.
Less good.
And they were ravaged in the portal. What good players they had. In fact, they had a good pass rusher. He is now going to be playing for Iowa State this year. And then 11 other starters left in the portal. They did not replace them with even equivalent talent. They had to go hit the JUCOs. And 4 of the 11 were starting offensive linemen. So this is a shorthand way of saying the challenge for Texas in this game is in the mirror. Does Texas show up serious and take care of business? Is it 38-0 at halftime? Do they come out in the third quarter run their first drive and go score a touchdown, and then Sark gets to put in second and third teamers for the rest of the game? Or does Texas screw around with these guys and, not allow a bunch of subs who are getting courted in the portal, right? Let's be frank, who are being told that they need to come here and get playing time. We need to go take care of business, kick their butt, and get a bunch of second and third teamers real playing time. And that includes letting Arch Manning get out there in the second half and throw the ball around.
I mean, so ideally, we want to see, it sounds like we want to see Arch maybe the first 7 to 10 minutes of the first quarter. And then we know that we're probably doing okay. Is that too early?
Quinn Ewers, you think?
No, I'd say we just put an Arch in. Just let him
in the first quarter.
Reps. Yeah, the first quarter.
Yeah, that wouldn't cause any quarterback controversy stuff or media. No, there wouldn't be any national attention for that. Now, the goal really is to dominate these guys, get our first teamers off the field healthy, and then let all those second and third teamers go. Like, run the real offense, run the real defense. Don't just dive the ball. Look, Texas tries to make friends all the time. Doesn't matter. People will still hate us. So do what you need to do to prepare your football team. And if that means laying 59 on UL Monroe, so be it.
Well, I hope that this has been an opportunity for you to look and get a sense of what are the little things that we can look at in non-conference games that will give us a sense of where Texas is. Because again, a lot of times, and I'll admit I do this too, sometimes we're just looking at the box score. We're saying, oh, well, we won by 40. We're doing great. Or we only won by 3. Oh my gosh, the world is falling apart. So I think looking at the intricacies of this, and again, I know it sounds like we're beating a drum here, but we kind of are. The thing that Paul provides every year in this prospectus, it's an opportunity for you to really get an inside look as to what these teams do, what their habits are, how Texas can work around those. And it's a great guide throughout the season. So please check that out. I do recommend it. I think the misconception here is it's a preseason document, and it's absolutely not. It's something I use throughout the year. And I want to thank Paul for that. And there's just really one question that we want everybody to think about.
What did we learn, Palmer?